so far for you to be able to watch some of these guys qualify. You know, DieMeng from China, and we have another player going up against Europe here. What's your opinions on this?
It's been really awesome so far to get to know, especially some of the players who I haven't known as well from China and the APAC region. It's been great to kind of see that they are coming to this not with the attitude that they're underdogs at all, but that they're just as, you know, here they're willing to compete. They believe they can take wins off North American and European players, and they have so far. So it's been a lot of fun to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to see some interesting classes go at it once again. A Paladin's going at it, but we also have a Shaman in the mix. So let's go over and check out how the players are doing right now. I think they're about to get ready for their first match pre-ceremonies as they are shaking hands. Good luck. Have fun. Neirea, of course, from Team Liquid, all the way from Ukraine, coming in here as a person with a chip on his shoulder. A lot of people look at Ukraine, they think Kolento, and they think of some of the dominance that he had last year going into BlizzCon. But there's another Ukrainian player who's also played almost equal amount of games, and in my opinion is almost equivalent in skill and deck building prowess, and that's Neirea.
Yeah, he actually made it to the European Championship last year, so he was right there. He almost made it to BlizzCon, and as you said, he kind of has that chip on his shoulder. He's a very, very high-skilled player, and a lot like Purple, he kind of values like what he believes are the strongest decks, kind of the most obvious plays. He doesn't try to mess around with like Shaman or get involved with classes that he does not feel are like top-tier classes. So I think this is a really good opportunity for him to prove, as you said, that he is kind of that other player from Ukraine who's just extremely good.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point too, because I know that the Paladins from the Asia server, whether it's APAC or China, they've been favoring mid-range Paladin. But I have a secret that Neirea is playing
That was well done.
Yeah, that was
the transition was perfect.
I was confided in. Neirea was like, well, I've joined the dark side. And there it is, Mysterious Challenger Paladin, the first appearance in this tournament, up against another first-time appearance, the Mech Shaman.
Yeah, Mech Shaman is quite different from the totem mid-range Shaman that we saw yesterday. You know, it just wants to kill your opponent really, really fast with Doomhammer on 5, and like just burst down your opponent with stuff like Crackle, Lava Burst, and yeah, stop them before they develop more board.
Fascinating. So there's definitely a lot of choices that we can discuss. The first that I want to bring up to the table is keeping Mysterious Challenger in hand. It is very important for the deck's success, but Neirea feels like he wants to keep it from the opening bat. What do you think about that?
Well, usually I do like keeping power cards, but a little bit more when you go second, since you do see 4 cards. But Neirea here, he knows he was going to draw that Haunted Creeper, so you know, everything worked out fine.
I think if he knew that this was Mech Shaman beforehand, he might have reconsidered, because one of the weaknesses of this Paladin is if you can outrace it quick enough, so that way before turn 6, they're low enough that you never have to worry about their board.
Sure, but it's pretty interesting that the Mech Shaman also plays Totem Golem.
Yeah, that is an interesting choice. And I wonder if he's playing more board-centric Mech Shaman with some cards that scale really aggressively in minion damage versus, like you're talking about, like Doomhammers and Lava Bursts and sometimes even a second Doomhammer because you want to draw it that much more often.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he kind of brought up Cronan, that the Paladin, Secret Paladin specifically, plays a lot like mid-range Paladin in the early going. If it's not playing Secrets, it's jockeying for the board. It kind of wants to get control of the board and then basically be able to trade out with the more aggressive decks. But you know, if you play something like Face Hunter, if you play something like Mech Shaman, and you just continue to go to the face, you're usually in a reasonable spot. That said, Coghammer is super problematic for aggro decks to deal with. The Taunt, Divine Shield, exhausts a lot of your resources, stops you from putting damage directly into the opposing hero. So while Neirea's hand didn't look necessarily super solid from the outset, having that Coghammer is huge, getting the Haunted Creeper is really big. So he's in a good spot.
Yeah, and sheer power level of value, Coghammer is one of the highest in the deck, along with Tyrion and Mysterious Challenger. All those cards have major impact specifically against this deck too. And Neirea looks like he's going to be able to get there. He's going to have commanding board position, which is what Shaman needs in the early game in order to leverage its damage, right? That's why Lava Burst can be threatening, because you have gotten your opponent into the teens, and then hopefully you can burn it down. Unfortunately for DieMeng, looks like the board's going to be gone. Neirea has multiple ways to do this. He can use Consecration. He can also use Blessing of Kings and go for a more board-centric approach and have his opponents deal with the minions that's remaining.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to decide. Using Blessing of Kings means that he has to take some damage to the face. And yeah, when you're at that low health with a deck that doesn't heal, it gets kind of scary when you're facing against a deck like double Lava Burst and stuff like that.
Yeah, this is where Secret Paladin really begins to shine. They have the resources to stick on board, the weapons out, and DieMeng doesn't have the flexibility playing Mech Shaman that Neirea has on Secret Paladin. He has to keep just playing the aggressive line, trying to do the damage and end this really early, because Neirea's Secret Paladin deck scales actually pretty well into the mid and the late game with drops like Dr. Boom. Even after Mysterious Challenger, you have Dr. Boom, you have Tyrian Fordring. These are cards that just give Mech Shaman fits.
You even have a second Mysterious Challenger, maybe even Lotheb thrown in.
Right.
One thing that I think Neirea is also really emphasizing by using Consecration over Blessing of Kings is that he wants to keep as many minions on the board before Challenger. When Challenger was first introduced, people thought, you know what, if I just play on turn 6, it's amazing. But you realize it actually becomes much more complicated the more minions are on the board. And you also amplify that on top of the fact that this Shaman doesn't run Lightning Storm. So the more 1/1s, the more small minions that exist, it's very problematic to deal with. So I like this approach that Neirea has going into the mid stage of the game. He's really understood his win condition against Shaman.
Yeah, Neirea realized there that if he traded into that Piloted Shredder, he had the Coghammer, he had the 1/1 Spire on the board. There's a good chance that unless it was Millhouse Mana Storm, really, he was going to be able to trade out with it. So Knife Juggler would have been good had it survived. It did not. Lava Burst off the top for DieMeng. We were talking about how in the later stages of the Mech Shaman deck, they want to burst you down with Crackle and Lava Burst. Obviously, that's one of those spells. That said, Neirea is not really low enough in health for it to really be a consideration right now. It may end up being used to possibly clear out a taunt or something.
Oh, you don't want to do that. That would be terrible.
It hurts.
But yeah, you do need to, as a Mech Shaman, you do need your minions to do the first 15 points of damage and then finish it out with spells.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of information from just the Mysterious Challenger being played. There's only 3 secrets being pulled, and he had Redemption in hand. So he probably maybe be running the once of each secret type of Mysterious Challenger Paladin and have a more emphasis on early game board control. Some players, like Cross from the Japanese server, another player that's not featured here but is well known by players, he plays like Zombie Chows in the deck, so that way he has board control, which is very counterintuitive normally. You're like, don't you want to be more aggressive as a Mysterious Challenger Paladin? But again, it's about the board, like you said, Robert.
I was going to say, I was reading a guide earlier where they were talking about it's like you just have 4 secrets and then you have the double Zombie Chow. And I was reading a guide that said that's just an incredibly powerful deck. So DieMeng, in his favor, he was able to get the buff onto the Piloted Shredder, which now makes a very large Piloted Shredder. But you know what's larger?
A 10-9 is larger.
That is just, that's math even I can do. That is a bigger minion.
All right.
Yeah, a much stronger minion. And, the Shaman doesn't have much card draw either in the deck, generally speaking. So the fact that Neirea is out-carding him, out-valuing him, and DieMeng can't really rebound with cards like Divine Favor-esque, where you just be able to refill the hand. DieMeng's in really big trouble here.
Yeah, the Elder Peacekeeper is just such a valuable tool. You have this big Shredder. He doesn't even really have to respect the Flame Tongue Totem at this point. You see one card in the opponent's hand. The Piloted Shredder does 3 damage because of the Flame Tongue, but again, you're at 16. You're not feeling super bad, and you have more than enough power to race him down.
Yes. And here's also another catch-22. You don't know what secret it is, so even if he managed to kill the Mysterious Challenger, it would be reborn through Redemption, and that's going to be game number 1. Secret Paladin grabbing a very quick win. But the question mark remains, is it because Secret Paladin is that good? Or was it a poor choice to bring the Mech Shaman? That remains to be seen.
Right. The Mech Shaman is definitely a little bit weird because we see Leper Gnomes, we see Abusive Sergeants. Like, you're wondering how many 1-drops is he playing? It might be just 8 1-drops.
Yeah.
And the deck fizzles out really fast.
It's fascinating because I think DieMeng is going for the surprise factor, but now it's no longer there. And if there was one deck you wanted to surprise, it could be Secrets Paladin. I think Druid is also another class that he anticipated potentially being there. And if he won Mech Shaman versus Druid, that could have been his strategy. However, it's been foiled.
Yeah, you bring up the fact that there's kind of those other non-mech cards in there, the Totem Golem, the Leper Gnome. And when you have these mech-centric decks, Amaz, we were talking about around to 40 with your mech mage deck, you have those other drops that are really powerful cards, but the farther away you get from kind of that mech density in your deck, it can kind of hurt you because you don't have all those mechs. So.
Yeah, you definitely have no late game. You're just valuing consistency in the early game versus going later. So it's just a choice you have to make, right? To balance it out.
And Leper Gnome, obviously, and Totem Golem both do a lot of damage, though.
Yeah, they do.
Cards,
a lot of damage conditions.
Yep.
They do, and then at the same time, though, you really want to be able to get out those early game mana minions, and that's where it's very complicated with like Mech Warper and Totem Golem. It's like you're sabotaging any kind of mana that you gain. So there's some interesting choices in that deck that probably worked out for DieMeng in testing, but unfortunately did not curve out perfectly in this situation. So with that, we're going to take a quick look into Neirea's life. We had a chance to sit down and chat with him for a couple of seconds as we get ready for game number 2.
I have a hobby. I'm watching football, and I love it. And my favorite football club is Valencia. I try to follow it as much as I can. And before I started playing Hearthstone, I was full in it. To be full in football, you watch all games, all the championships you like. I watched English Premier League, I watched Spanish, I watched German, and of course Ukrainian.
I don't know why, but I was really hoping that he'd be talking about American football as well.
When he said that, he's like, I'm really big into football. I'm like, yeah, I'm a Bears fan too.
Yeah, I was like,
and then
yeah,
he's like,
like,
Valencia. I
from
kind of,
Giants,
what?
yes.
What's a Valencia?
It's like, is that a new franchise that I never heard of?
Right.
Well, Neirea, of course, is very athletic. He used to be in the military back in the day, I think, as well. And he told me that he used to be super ripped, but because he started, taking a step back, he actually lost a lot of, some of those gains.
It's called Body by
muscles.
Hearthstone. A lot of us are
Body by Hearthstone.
Oh, wow.
It's you're clicking.
That's
finger
right.
gets really, really ripped, like super muscular.
Finger
but the rest of
matches.
you
Yeah,
kind of
that's
suffers
right.
a little bit.
Yeah, you gotta get that some of that massage lotion.
Yeah.
It's like Essence by Robert Wing.
Ooh.
Only sold that Body by Hearthstone.
You haven't patented that, right? I can still do that. Thanks, Dan.
All right, we're gonna go with Druid versus. Oh, it's a Secrets Paladin again. Okay, so
On the other
DieMeng
side.
also bringing Secrets Paladin.
Right.
It's a Secrets Paladin with a couple of interesting twists, though.
Yeah.
Right.
The Blood Knight. So when you run the Blood Knight, obviously there's synergy to be had in the deck already. But maybe it's something where you're considering you're going to run into a lot of Secret Paladins, which going into this tournament I mentioned yesterday, a lot of players have been very high on Secret Paladin as being one of the most powerful decks in the meta right now. So again, it's one of those meta reads. Amaz, I think, again, you actually brought in your Mech Mage, I saw Blood Knights.
Exactly.
Was that a reaction because you thought you'd see more Secret Paladins?
Yeah, exactly. Because when you can proc it off your own creatures, that's only okay.
Right.
But when you can do it on both sides of the field, it definitely surges in value by quite a bit.
Huge swing.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting variant of Secrets Paladin from DieMeng. He's got Equality as well, which is normally board-centric. And then he's got Anoyatrons, which I anticipate he might have replaced Haunted Creeper with. And then the question becomes, what kind of secrets is he running? Is he running a lot of the one-ofs, or is he running like 8 secrets or even more with the Mysterious Challengers?
Yeah, typically you do want to run 2 of every secrets, except for the so-called weaker ones, like Repentance, like maybe Redemption, for example.
But you want 2 for Eye for an Eye, because those are the best.
Oh.
Right,
Is
right,
that
Amaz?
the
Is that
best
what you're
one,
saying?
Robert?
Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I love Eye for an Eye. It's great secret. Would run in every deck.
A good answer.
If I could.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Maybe just had a philosophy for how I live my life, so.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I have occasionally, like, I think twice since in the entirety of the existence of Secret Paladin, I run into Eye for an Eye, and it's not really, you just kind of forget it exists. You don't play around it.
Okay.
So like, you swing and you just suddenly take 4 damage back, and you're like, well, I didn't really do much, but it hurts. I did take 4 damage.
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with a format where you can't change your decks, maybe it's not as good.
Now, maybe you would not bring Eye for an Eye in the Hearthstone World Championship. I like the fact that we're seeing these Secret Paladins have different builds, especially based on the region, because it's a deck where there's a lot of room to improvise.
Yeah.
You talked about Anoyatron versus Haunted Creeper. Like, I think that's a really good consideration to, actually think over.
It's true, and oh no! Oh my God! Oh, okay. So if he innervated that Ancient of War, he would have
would've
gotten
been really bad.
devastated.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Really, where you were like, no, don't do it, no.
Because that's a 1 mana 9 damage secret. Like, it did 9 damage to Ancient of War if that was the case. Instead, it's still a really good impact, but I mean, Neirea is still kind of weirded out by it. And this is also a scenario where Blood Knight would also be very surprising, but then you have Big Game Hunter for it, so it's like all these interesting tech choices like Ancient of War, like Blood Knight would have gotten answered immediately.
Yeah, Blood Knight is definitely not the best card against the Druid, I guess. The most you can make is a 6/6, where, because they have Keep of the Grove as well, right? Lots of answers for it.
This is one of those things that's so interesting about having, all these different players from all these different regions on the main stage, because you get to see what's, valued differently per region. And we see the Anoyatron, to me, feels like it's a reaction to something like Face Hunter, right? Deals very well with something like that.
It might be because he is playing Blood Knight as well, so his
It fits
2-drop
in
choices.
really well. Yep.
Yeah, is that. DieMeng is gonna use a very aggressive equality here, just to continue pushing damage.
Yeah,
We already
sense.
saw a swipe too, so maybe you figure like, hey, this is probably pretty reasonable.
Right.
Plus, it's really hard to deal with Dr. Minibot on the
Dr.
board.
Minibot. Yeah.
Summon
Summon
two
two
Neiretrons.
Neiretrons.
The question is, does it do the little laugh? Like, do you hear like a like the robot version of it? I can't
But
do
like,
it, but yeah, no, that would it's actually a really scary looking board.
If that was a 2-mana minion, which is probably coming in the next expansion, by the way.
Oh.
The Minibot summons two Neiretrons, Blood Knight would have insane value. But
so if Tusker,
Tusker
Totemic is Doctor 3,
Yeah.
is this Doctor 2?
Oh.
close.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
he hasn't finished his degree quite yet.
Sure.
But
like
there
he's in
are
community
counters.
college.
Guide my lands.
There you
That
go.
would be a really good TV show. Community college based on all that stuff.
I'd watch it.
Oh, I like
Neirea
the
is
whole
really afraid of
background attack
Avenge.
there.
He's gotten information
Yeah.
that it's not Competitive Spirit, that it's not Repentance #2, even though it's unlikely there's still a chance. He didn't get to test Noble Sacrifice either, but he's just not going to take the chance that the Avenge hits the Divine Shield, and then all of a sudden this becomes a 5/3 minion. Really difficult to deal
Right.
with.
Not only that, I mean, making a Neiretron a 4/3, it's like big enough already to make it
Sure.
so that it's more threat on the board.
That's right.
Pocket let's see where that lands.
Dude, Divine Shield Secrets Paladin. That just sounds so... that's very frustrating to go up against repeatedly because
Yeah.
you just can't ever get clean trade.
Now, so he can obviously cycle, draw a card, get rid of something. Although he may just want to take out the.
You do need to gamble a bit, I think. You do need to like draw a card and hope for a swipe, maybe.
You could start looking to use Force of Nature soon to try to clear up some of this board, but obviously that's never how you want to use it.
Oh,
wow.
no, that's not what he wanted. If maybe the Divine Shield would have been slightly worse, because it's like, then the next. So that could have been the second
Ooh.
best
Oh,
option.
wow.
Couple
one
secrets
secret.
here at least.
Oh,
So
okay, never mind.
4, and
Yep.
he's seen Repentance, so it's the full color palette here for DieMeng of secrets.
This is a great position to be in, actually. I'm not really sure what else he could
You don't
ask for.
say.
Yeah.
You know, if that Neiretron wasn't there, that'd be lethal for Neirea.
Interesting, because Neirea could clear the board if the Avenge bounces correctly to the Mysterious Challenger.
Yeah.
Or actually, even to the Knife Juggler, it's completely fine. Because you can, you know, BGH both, but you do want the Shredder to trade into the Knife Juggler instead. Well,
Which wire do I cut? It's like the yellow wire.
Man. That's also another scary moment where it might even kill
the tree. But it was
Yeah.
green, so it
Yeah.
kind of spoiled.
Ooh, that's
Oh,
a really good thing to get out of the
Dude.
Shredder, too.
But what a turnaround.
What a swing!
Oh, but...
Wait,
okay.
huh? Second Repentance. We were talking about it. It's not like...
Put the... Okay.
Well, Consecrate is a good card, too.
Consecration allows him to clear and play Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what you... I mean, you're so close to the finish line. You just got to keep racing down.
I mean, and it's quite the race.
Yeah.
Considering that he's got Loatheb on the other end, and that's going to make it really difficult to deal with. Unless Neirea has a second Ancient of War.
I like this from DieMeng, too, because he realizes he's 1 HP above us, like, taking a combo to death. Like,
Right.
he's at 15. He's fine. He can just go fix.
It out. A really back and forth game right there.
Right, with some really interesting cards in DieMeng's Secret Paladin deck. We saw a Neiretron's, a Blood Knight, there was an Equality, which I'm not sure. The list obviously changes day to day, but I don't feel like Equality is like a standard inclusion
Definitely
in Secret
not.
Paladin most of the time, so.
It dealt 9 damage
Right.
to the Ancient of War. It was really powerful.
So he really wants to kill a lot of these. Leveraging the Divine Shields to not have it as big of an impact, because when you have Divine Shield and 1 health, it still feels like you do have a good chunk of equality, and then all of your minions become 1/1s or 3/1s or 5/1s.
Yeah.
So with that, game number 2 is in the books. The Secret Paladins went 2 up, 2 down, and it's a 100% win rate. I think that's
For
going to
now.
be a really fun thing to see if it continues to develop that way, because Patron War is almost the same exact win rate, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
it seems like that. but not
Yesterday,
today.
yeah.
Not today.
Shaman is
Shaman
100%
is a 0% win rate.
0%.
Going in the long run. In the meantime, we're going to get ready for game number 3, so we'll be back in just a second. Enjoy this little segment.
然后因为圆了他多年的梦，他就一直想有辆汽车，驾照也都快过期了。
That's definitely the priority in terms of sequencing. We always talk about that in Hearthstone.
Okay.
So.
What a guy though. He wants to buy a car for his mom.
Yeah.
That's very
super
sweet.
nice.
I want
Even
DieMeng to
before
win now.
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a cool guy.
That's great.
Nice manners, DieMeng.
After that,
Nice
he'll
manners.
buy you a car, Robert.
I have a car, but I would always welcome a second one. You can never have too many cars.
That's right.
Unless you don't have a
Just
big
ask
enough
Jay Leno.
driveway. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, game number 3, DieMeng looked like he hovered over Shaman, and he wanted to bring it back. Shaman versus Neirea's potential Druid or Mage, and that's why winning that game was also critical, because if there's one deck that I feel like Mech Shaman is still very good against, it's the Druid class, because
Right.
you're able to outpace it early on. They're spending early game to ramp, and as such, they won't answer things like the...
It is kind of like the weakest link, yet everybody still brings it because it's so consistent.
Gotten slightly better because like Freeze Mage is also coming back in some capacity. So Druid does have some good matchups. Before, Druid was decent against the Patron and good against Handlock. That was
Right. I think Druid very specifically with Paladin, with Mech Shaman, and with his Hunter. So
Yes.
Neirea might just get his Druid locked out and never win a game with.
See. So.
One card that's helped, though, is that Darnassus Aspirate. Being able to effectively put a minion while wild growthing and trying to ramp might give him an opportunity to play the Shade, and then...
Since it's come out, the competitive Hearthstone scene, it's just because it's made Druid so much more consistent, people are like, well, let's bring Druid every time because it doesn't necessarily have any terrible.
DieMeng went for Totem Golem, but it's because he's going to have 2 mana this turn anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And Zapomatic demands a response immediately.
And he has a trade out there. I mean, you don't want to be trading as a Mech Shaman, but Darnassus Aspirant is just causing him too many headaches already.
Exactly.
Letting the Druid have mana is really bad.
It's like the high min rule, and there's also the Whirling Zapomatic rule.
Right, and this actually panned out pretty well for him. I mean, the Zapomatic, as Cronin said, has to be dealt with. So you have board again, you can play down a Shredder on the next turn. You're kind of back in the driver's seat and can start applying the pressure. He tackle or the Lava Burst next turn. Probably more for like minions, the Annoytron, maybe a Totem.
Depends. If he draws another Lava Burst, he might just start Lava Bursting in the next couple of turns. If it's like you draw all...
The Owl's gonna be pretty good here. It's just gonna silence a taunt and just
Ooh, a
get in more
second
damage.
silence though. Second Keeper of the Grove is a pretty important draw, I feel.
Seems like it's just gonna be a Druid Claw here.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that Keeper of the Grove is going to be an important tool, I think, in like the next
Right.
2 turns here.
You could also swipe and clear up most of the things. Wait,
Or so you think,
right?
until the natural predator of the taunts comes out.
But now you naturally think that, okay, maybe the Ancient of War is gonna save me.
Yeah.
Stabilize now. The
Kind of-
swipe is pretty huge.
A little bit under the radar. Path of Air Totem is super important because of everything else he has to deal with. And that could actually come up really big with the Lava Burst and Crackle in hand.
Right, it gains 1 attack for every spell played, right?
Yep.
Well, another perspective is either he clears a minion that has 2 damage, or he gets 2 extra damage from spell power, which he has to have.
Yeah, so Soul Survivor.
Yeah. Start with the Crackle.
Oh, you go for it.
Let's go!
Oh man.
Pack it up, DieMeng. We're ready to go.
I like that he puts on the Flame Tome. He's like, this is what's going to happen, but also I
Right.
have to really talk to Crackle see what page crackles.
Well, he goes to the lava burst
Here we go.
first.
Here we
Because he
go.
knows he's going to do it.
Because he's gonna set a precedent. That's roll
Alright.
6.
6 or
Just
higher.
roll the 6.
And
Oh! Neirea's face.
Wow.
Just-
man.
For
wow.
exact mana. Steals a win.
We again, we mentioned sequencing earlier, but DieMeng knew. So it's just
Oh,
like, yeah,
exactly.
no problem. Flame Tongue, Lava Burst, Crackle get in there. Pew, pew.
He
Got
set a
him.
precedent. It's like, well, Lava Burst gone. I just hit 6 too.
Yeah, that's so if you are out there and you're playing Mech Shaman, that's the sequencing you do that in.
He's cracked the code, and he's 1 game away. A win in the beginning of the group stages. Remember, whoever wins here goes to the later today for their life. They will win and continue to stay in the tournament. So Neirea doesn't want to drop this other game here against Hunter. Druid versus Hunter, Mage versus Hunter. He's got to be able to turn it around.
And I guess we're gonna see the next game here.
Yeah, so drawn out here, and I think the Druid gives less information, so it makes sense. Neirea having Mage gives this dynamic, like, well, is it Freeze
Ooh.
Mage? Is it Tempo Mage?
I like this too. DieMeng, that Worgen Infiltrator means it's time to go face. This is
Yeah.
and this actually Face Hunter has a very strong matchup, I feel, against Neirea's hand.
It's a very
Oh, that's
greedy
really
play.
greedy, because you're only pushing 2 more damage with this play, right? It's a
Are
5-2.
you, though? Because you also have...
Alright. Because you play 2 minions.
Yeah.
So just for that extra damage, you risk losing to Innervate Keeper, and now, you know, DieMeng is really, really behind. Oh,
Power
yeah,
on
it's 1
board.
damage. Yeah,
Right.
it's 1 damage.
So it's like, it's not even that much like, maybe the 1 damage does matter, but it can be considered very marginal with how you're trying to play this matchup.
It's a
Right.
big risk, big reward. Close though.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
I do agree. It was a little bit of a greedier play. I'll say that. And unfortunately, yeah, DieMeng runs into. But thanks, Innervate.
Yeah, the other... And Neirea is going to ramp immediately, so that way he has more options. Not going to attack because he knows Explosive Trap is a high possibility. Doesn't want to lose his minions for free.
Right, but okay, it is an explosive trap.
Yeah, you know what? DieMeng has Arambeak Owl.
DieMeng likes his RMB Owls. He's
Yeah,
been doing a lot of work for him.
Pretty big. He's even got South Sea Deckhand. Plays his Hunter, where he just plays even more 1-drops than you think. Leopard Gnomes, Worgen Infiltrators, Abusive Sergeants, and South.
You have an empty hand
Oh.
all the time.
All right, so we've recalibrated, boys. Now we want to survive until turn 9, and we can almost guaranteed kill our opponent from 30. So Neirea is going to be looking at ways to survive, which looks like he just wants to trade on board then and stall until turn 9.
And you could even go so far as to, I mean, obviously you'd be throwing away your win condition, but Force of Nature is there in an emergency to clear board. So yeah, I think trade, maybe even just play down the big game Hunter to trade more things.
Well, the thing is, Force of Nature pushes 10 damage right now if you use all the treants to clear the 2-1s.
True.
And
Right.
then, you know, hit 10 to the face. You might be winning the race faster that way, as opposed to keeping the combo. Since if you keep the combo and there's an explosive trap, you actually have to, you know, hit with 1 minion and you lose 2 damage to cast Savage Roar. Wow, Neirea's actually choosing not to attack at all.
Really interesting.
So
I
he's gonna-
thought he was
ooh.
going to push. I think he's also calculating how much damage comes the other direction. And he's saying, I just want to minimize losing life as much as possible.
I mean, he'd be at 9 right now.
That might be his window of opportunity just now, because now,
From this point on is a pretty big deal too, because you're going to be cutting down the clock of the Hunter hero power.
right.
This is where Quick Shot, on the other hand, is also a huge opportunity for DieMeng to draw into the lethal. He just has to pick up another charger. This is a scenario, I think, where you'd actually kind of want Wolf Rider.
Oh, no. That's not quite.
So,
oh man.
Yeah,
he has to trade that
He
or
has to trade or he dies, exactly.
Ooh.
Even if the knife juggle goes to the face.
Do you feel the pressure? You're not supposed to trade. You can't trade.
Right.
You gotta go face.
Well, here's the thing. Like, there's 12 damage on board, and if he has any...
Well, to us, because we know, right?
Well,
you
in
could also
general-
make a gamble.
When you're playing Face Hunter, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
It's bad times.
Definitely very tricky here.
Yeah. I think DieMeng, I mean, he's going to weigh this opportunity. I really love how Neirea has basically played really patient. It's very easy to look at, you know, their situation and respond like rash.
Oh.
And tie the series up 2 games apiece.
Oh wow, he would have lethal.
It's going to happen.
Oh, a little bit of DM there.
I like it.
Neirea's expression this whole series has been pretty like, oh, you're running those cards. I did not see that coming. So this is a little bit, you know, let him get back into the series, show a little bit of flair.
Sure thing. Strikes back after going down early with 2. And if it is Freeze Mage, which is a deck that Neirea has professed his love to, both privately and publicly.
Wow.
That's right, declared his engagement. They're getting married next year. Neirea and Freeze Mage is something that has been very fearsome in the past tournaments.
Yeah, and this is going to be an awesome Game 5 if it is Freeze Mage, because it's just the very aggressive deck versus the very control-oriented deck. It's always fun to watch. I'm of the mind it really does depend how the Hunter curves out in the beginning. You have to really just kind of go really quickly on that Freeze Mage, or else you run out of gas. The Mage just plays like double heal bot or something. Alex draws us back up to 15 health, and you just kind of lose right there. So what are you guys' experiences with this?
I think it also is dependent on what Hunter ends up drawing. If it is Freeze Mage, which it looks like it is based off that ice block. So, you know, with Hunter, like you said, being able to curve out is really important, but... Oh, sorry, I meant Mage. Also, Mage drawing very well is really powerful as well, because sometimes you just draw secrets like purple, and then you're just stuck with no options.
And the Mad Scientist as well.
Mad Scientist is pretty important because it's twofold. It's minions that fight, so that way you can gain some health and stop taking damage.
Wow, that's really good hand from
as well as drawing stuff. And he even has Ice Barrier in hand, which normally you look at as a Mad Scientist and think, I want it to draw the secret, but having Ice Barrier in hand is also pretty effective.
Do you consider, if you're DieMeng, just silencing this Mad Scientist on turn 2? If
Doomsayer.
Yeah.
But at that point, you know, you just want to go face once again, so might as well deny the secret from Neirea.
Yeah, you gain some pretty big tempo. That second Scientist is also really... Love the kill on the Owl. It is a beast and something you definitely...
Ishi's not a bad roll here for DieMeng.
It pushes 4 damage because it's going to survive, so it's kind of like a late huffer.
Yeah.
A little bit late to the party.
A late huffer. It's a mature huffer.
A fashionably late
attacks
huffer.
next turn.
Fashionably late one, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Huffer dressed up as Misha for Halloween.
I mean, we're getting very close to Halloween, so something to
That's
consider.
right.
DieMeng's next turn, pretty solid here. Wolf Rider, Worgen Infiltrator, just keep putting more stuff on the board.
I do like the attack first. He wants to find this other Ice Barrier so that, you know, he can cast the other one from his hand. But now that it's an Ice block, he probably just plays Ice Barrier anyways.
Yeah.
Right. It's a more mana efficient play, even though there's 6 power on board, so you net 2. Leopard Gnome staying alive is something in the back of your mind as well. So effectively, you feel like you're canceling out your opponent's turn.
Want to just quick one-shots you, kill
true.
commands you,
Yep.
and just gets past it. So better to cast it earlier than later.
Yeah, it's important to emphasize that you need to attack into the secrets or your opponent's hero in order for that Ice Barrier to be active.
To put in the South Sea deckhand from the Face Hunter list here.
Right.
'Cause
So normally you cut things at the top end, like you maybe have one Unleash the Hounds, maybe you run one Eagle Horn Bow because you're trying to go for just really aggressive curves.
Like 3 drop is his highest curve.
Right, he's got Wolf Rider, so I'd assume he's running that over Argent Horse Rider. That's
Sure.
usually the decision you make there.
More damage.
It's a lot of damage.
Oh,
Leon,
that's a good
is it
one.
Leon
Huge.
then?
No,
Oh, it's a late huffer again.
I'd like to report a bug.
Yeah, go ahead and head over to the bug report forums for that one. Ooh, so Blizzard, yeah.
Yeah, Blizzard huge here, shutting down, not only killing the minions, but also denying kill command from getting immediate beast synergy.
Right.
So